My name is Emma. I'm 29 years old, and for 10 agonizing months, my family treated me like a disposable bank account while my cousin played the brave, dying victim. I kept telling myself the exhaustion was worth it if it meant keeping her alive. But the moment that finally broke the illusion came on a Tuesday afternoon in the fluorescent lighting of my second job's break room. I had just wired her another $800 for emergency medication when a coworker casually flipped her phone around to show me a luxury travel vlog from Cabo. There was my bedridden cousin. She was holding a frozen margarita on a private catamaran, laughing so hard she threw her head back in the sun. My chest went completely hollow. My hands shook so badly I dropped my coffee cup straight onto the linoleum floor. I worked 70-hour weeks. I skipped meals to afford her treatments. I drained $87,350 from my life savings while she texted me that she was too weak for visitors. I thought I was saving someone I loved. I was wrong. She had no idea I had already screen recorded the vlog, tracked down the resort's reservation history, and drafted a single message with 10 attachments for our 42-person family group chat. What I hit send on didn't just ruin her vacation, it was about to torch her reputation forever and tear our family's lies down to the studs. Before I go on, take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story speaks to you. Drop your location and local time in the comments. Now let me take you back to the morning she first called me crying. It started at my Aunt Sarah's house. Sunday dinner in late August. There were 40 of us crowded into a backyard that smelled like charcoal and expensive bug spray. My cousin Julie arrived late. She didn't walk in. She appeared, leaning heavily on her mother's arm, wearing a headscarf even though it was 85 degrees out. The music stopped. My Uncle Bob put down his tongs. The air in the yard changed from a party to a wake in about 6 seconds. Julie sat in the padded wicker chair that was usually reserved for the oldest living relative, and the family swarmed. "It's my blood," she whispered. Her voice was thin like paper tearing. "The doctors call it an aggressive cellular anomaly. Rare, experimental treatments are the only road left, and insurance they won't touch the clinical trials." I watched from the edge of the patio. My family is the kind that treats illness like a holy calling. If you're hurting, you're the center of the universe. If you're healthy, you're the help. My mother turned to me before Julie had even finished her first glass of water. She didn't ask, she stated, "Emma, you're the only one without a mortgage or kids to worry about. You've always been the stable one, the generous one. We need to step up for your cousin." I was 29. I was working as a junior analyst, living in a studio apartment I'd finally started decorating, and saving every penny for a down payment on a small condo. I had $90,000 in a high-yield account. It was 10 years of missed vacations, cheap shoes, and saying no to happy hours. "Of course," I said. The word felt like a weight in my throat. In my family, saying no to a sick relative is like spitting on a grave. I looked at Julie. Her eyes were watery, her skin looked pale, probably just light foundation, I realize now, but then I thought it was the sickness. She looked at me and mouthed, "Thank you." The first wire transfer happened 2 days later. Julie texted me a PDF of a clinic intake form from a facility in Mexico. It looked official. It had logos and a breakdown of costs. $12,500 for the first round of immunotherapy. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at my bank portal. I remember the cursor blinking. I hit send. The family group chat, all 42 of us, exploded that night. My Aunt Sarah posted a photo of the wire confirmation I'd screenshotted for them. "Our Emma is an angel on earth," she wrote. "Saving her cousin's life one sacrifice at a time. God is watching." Everyone replied with heart emojis and praying hands. Julie replied with a photo of herself in bed, a fake IV line taped to her arm under a pile of blankets. "I don't deserve her," Julie wrote. I felt a flush of pride, but it was quickly replaced by a cold realization. To keep this up, I couldn't just use my savings. I needed more cash flow. I took a second job, night shift data entry for a logistics firm. My life became a blur of blue light and caffeine. I'd finish my 9 to 5, drive 20 minutes to a windowless office park, and type serial numbers into a database until 2:00 a.m. I'd sleep for 4 hours, wake up, and do it again. I saw my family at a christening 3 weeks later. I was vibrating with exhaustion. I had dark circles under my eyes that no concealer could hide. I walked over to the buffet to grab a sandwich, and my Aunt Linda stopped me. "Emma, dear, you look a bit haggard," she said, tusking. "You should really take better care of yourself. Look at Julie, even with the treatments, she's so poised. She's such a fighter. We should all be praying for her strength." Nobody asked if I was okay. Nobody asked how I was paying for the second $15,000 transfer I'd sent that Tuesday. I was just the ATM with a heartbeat. I watched Julie across the room. She was sipping ginger ale, surrounded by cousins who were rubbing her shoulders and bringing her plates of food. She didn't have to get up once. She was the queen of the crisis. I went to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face. I looked at the first wire transfer receipt I'd printed out and kept in my purse. I used to look at it to remind myself I was doing something good. Now, it just looked like a bill I couldn't stop paying. That night, Julie texted me privately. "The doctors say the first round didn't take as well as they hoped. They need another $8,000 for the booster shots by Friday or I lose my spot in the trial. I'm so scared, Emma. You're the only one I can talk to." I didn't even reply. I just logged into the portal and moved the money. I was down to $45,000 in my savings. My condo was gone. My sleep was gone. But the family was happy. They had a victim to pity and a provider to praise. And as long as the money kept moving, nobody had to look too closely at the reality of the situation. I was the silent utility provider. I was the one who worked the double shifts so Julie could be the one who got the prayers. I sat in my car in the parking lot of my second job that night, clutching a lukewarm cup of gas station coffee. My hands were shaking. I realized I wasn't just tired. I was disappearing. I checked the group chat. Another update from Julie. "Feeling very weak tonight. The pain is a 9/10. Thank you all for the love." I sent a heart emoji. It was all I had left. The first time I realized I couldn't stop was a Tuesday in October. I was standing in the grocery store aisle, staring at a box of generic cereal that cost $4.19. I had $6.20 in my checking account. I hadn't eaten anything but office breakroom crackers in 24 hours because I'd wired Julie $3,500 that morning for specialized blood filtration. I put the cereal back. I bought a single loaf of bread and a jar of peanut butter. That was my food for the week. My physical body was starting to fail. At my day job, I'd find myself staring at my monitor for 20 minutes, my fingers frozen on the keys, unable to remember what a spreadsheet was for. My boss, Mr. Henderson, pulled me into his office. He was a kind man, but he was a businessman. "Emma, you're missing deadlines," he said, leaning over a stack of reports I'd riddled with typos. "Your work is usually bulletproof. Now it looks like someone is sleepwalking through the data. Is everything okay?" "I'm just helping my cousin," I said. "She's very sick." He looked at me for a long time. I think he saw the way my collarbone was starting to jut out under my blouse. "Family is important, Emma, but you can't pour from an empty cup. Take the afternoon off, get some rest." I didn't get rest. I drove straight to my second job and asked for extra hours. I told them I'd work the Saturday overnight shift, the one nobody wanted. That was another $200 I could send to the clinic. I tried to see Julie that weekend. I drove to her apartment with a container of homemade soup, the only thing I could afford to make in bulk. I knocked on the door, but nobody answered. 5 minutes later, I got a text. "Hey, sweetie, I heard you at the door. I'm so sorry, I'm just too weak to even get out of bed today. The nausea is unbearable. Please just leave the soup on the porch. I love you so much. You're my lifeline." I sat in my car in her driveway and watched the front door. The blinds were drawn tight. The house looked dead. I waited for 20 minutes, hoping she'd peek out, but she didn't. I felt a twinge of something, not suspicion yet, just a deep, hollow loneliness. I was killing myself to keep her alive, and I couldn't even hold her hand. I checked the family group chat on my way home. Aunt Sarah had posted, "Julie is having a very dark day. The cancer is aggressive. Emma just sent another payment. God bless our girl. Let's all post a prayer for Julie's comfort." The chat scrolled by with dozens of messages. "Praying for you, Jules. You're a warrior. Stay strong, Emma. You're doing the Lord's work." None of them offered to chip in. Not even $5. They all had commitments. Uncle Bob had just bought a new boat. Aunt Sarah was remodeling her kitchen. They had plenty of breath for prayers, but their wallets stayed shut. They had decided as a collective that my life was the one that was expendable. By the end of November, I had drained exactly $41,200. That was my entire down payment fund. The money I'd saved since I was 19. I called my real estate agent and told her I was pulling out of the market. "But Emma, we found that perfect place on 4th Street, she said. The seller accepted the offer. "I can't," I said. My voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. "A family emergency came up." "I'm so sorry," she said. I hung up and cried for the first time. I wasn't crying because I missed the condo. I was crying because I realized I didn't have a future anymore. I had a debt to a ghost. I went to the bank to look at my statements. I needed to see it in black and white, row after row of wire transfers. $5,000, $2,800, $10,000, all going to an account labeled J. Miller Medical. The teller looked at me with pity. "That's a lot of money for one person to handle, honey. Is there anyone helping you with these bills?" "I'm the only one who can," I told her. That was the lie I told myself every night. I had to be the hero because if I wasn't, I was just a girl losing everything for nothing. I needed the sacrifice to mean something. I needed Julie to be the warrior they said she was, because if she wasn't, then I was just a fool. The damage wasn't just the money. It was the way I looked at people now. I'd see my coworkers laughing at lunch and feel a surge of pure, hot resentment. Why did they get to eat? Why did they get to go home and sleep? I stopped answering my friends' calls. I stopped going to the gym. I stopped buying coffee. I was a ghost in my own life, haunting the hallways of my office and the fluorescent-lit aisles of the data entry center. Then came the emergency surgery text. "Emma, the doctors found a blockage. If they don't operate by Monday, the toxins will hit my heart. It's $12,000 up front because it's an out-of-network specialist. I'm so scared. I don't want to die." I didn't have $12,000. I had $3,800 left in my savings and a credit card with a $10,000 limit. I sat on my floor in the dark. I looked at the framed photo of Julie and me from high school graduation. We were leaning against each other, laughing. She looked so bright then. I took the credit card out of my wallet. I did the math. The interest alone would swallow me for years. It was a suicide mission for my credit score. I did it anyway. I called the number on the back of the card and asked for a cash advance. I told them it was for a medical emergency. When the transaction cleared, I felt a physical pain in my chest. It felt like something snapping. My future was officially gone. I was now in the red. I messaged the group chat. "Sent the $12 for the surgery. Please keep her in your thoughts on Monday." The replies came in fast. "Emma, you are the pillar of this family. A true saint. Julie is so lucky to have you." I turned my phone off. I didn't feel like a saint. I felt like I was drowning in a shallow pool and 40 people were standing on the edge, cheering for my form while I went under. That was the night I stopped dreaming about the condo. I just dreamt about silence. I just wanted everything to stop moving. I was $53,000 deep, and the surgery was supposedly happening in 3 days. I waited for an update. I waited for a "she's out of recovery" text. I waited for anything that made the $12 feel like it hadn't just vanished into the air. The update never came. Instead, I got a text from Aunt Sarah on Tuesday morning. "Julie is too weak to type, but she's through the worst of it. She needs total isolation for the next month to prevent infection. No visitors, no calls. We have to give her space to heal, Emma. Let's let her rest." I looked at my empty fridge. I looked at my maxed-out credit card. "Okay," I whispered to the empty room. "Rest." I went to work. I had to. I had bills to pay that weren't hers anymore. By December, the financial drain was no longer a number on a screen, it was a physical weight. I had sent exactly $87,350. My savings were gone. My credit was ruined. My 401k had been raided and emptied. I was living on credit card balance transfers and the grace of a landlord who hadn't noticed I was consistently 4 days late with rent. I was at my desk at the logistics firm, typing in serial numbers when my vision blurred. I dropped my pen. It rolled under the desk, and I didn't even have the energy to lean over and pick it up. I just sat there, staring at the gray fabric of the cubicle wall. "Emma!" It was Maya, one of the other data entry clerks. We weren't close, but we'd shared enough 1:00 a.m. coffees to recognize each other's survival mode face. She was standing there with a fresh pot of coffee, looking at me with genuine concern. "I'm fine," I said. My voice sounded like it was coming from the bottom of a well. "You're not fine, you're shaking," Maya said. She pulled out the spare chair and sat down. "You've been doing double shifts for months. Nobody does that for fun. What's going on?" I didn't have the energy to lie anymore. "My cousin, she's in an experimental trial for a blood disorder. It's expensive. I'm the only one who can pay." Maya frowned. 80,000, that's more than expensive, Emma. That's a house, that's a whole life. Where is she getting this treatment?" "Mexico, a private clinic," I said. "They don't take insurance." Maya didn't say anything for a second. She just poured me a cup of coffee and pushed it toward me. "My sister had a rare form of lupus. We did the clinic route. I know how it goes." "But Emma, you look worse than the patient. You're dropping things, you're losing weight. If you collapse, who pays the bills then?" I didn't have an answer. I just drank the coffee. It was bitter and hot, the only thing I'd eaten since a sleeve of saltines that morning. While I was paying the price with my health, the rest of the family was thriving on the narrative. The group chat had become a shrine to Julie's bravery. Aunt Sarah posted a photo of a new designer handbag Uncle Bob had bought her for getting through such a stressful year. They were taking weekend trips to decompress from the emotional toll of Julie's illness. Every time I saw a photo of them at a winery or a brunch spot, I looked at my own shoes. The soles were starting to flap. I couldn't afford $40 for a new pair of loafers. The injustice of it was starting to curd in my stomach. I was the one working 80 hours a week. I was the one who had given up my home, but in the family's eyes, I was just a background character. I was the stable one, the one whose sacrifice was expected, not appreciated. Aunt Linda posted a long, flowery prayer in the chat that Wednesday. "Lord, thank you for giving Julie the strength to face another rough week. The nausea has been so bad she can't even look at a screen. We are so blessed to have a family that stays united in spirit." Below it, she tagged me. "Emma, honey, Julie mentioned she needs another $800 for the new anti-nausea meds. Can you get that over to her today? We're all praying for you too." I stared at the message. I had $12.00 in my wallet. I had to call my bank and beg for a temporary limit increase on my last surviving credit card just to send the $800. The bank officer was cold. "Ms. Miller, you are already at 98% utilization. This is not a sustainable financial path." "I know," I whispered. "Just this one last time." I sent the money. I didn't even get a thank you text from Julie. Just another photo from Aunt Sarah of the beautiful flowers the family had sent to Julie's apartment to brighten her day. Flowers that cost more than my weekly grocery budget. I was at my breaking point. At work, I was making mistakes I couldn't explain. I entered a shipment of medical supplies as scrap metal. It took 3 hours to fix. My supervisor didn't yell, he just looked at me with a tired kind of pity that was worse than anger. "One more mistake like that, Emma, and I have to put you on probation," he said. "I like you, but I can't have a ghost running my floor." I walked to the break room. My legs felt like lead. I stood by the coffee machine, the same one where Maya had found me before. I was shaking so hard I had to grip the edge of the counter. $87,000. 10 months of my life. The condo I'd wanted was probably sold to someone else by now. Someone who slept 8 hours a night. Someone who didn't have 42 relatives counting on them to be a martyr. I felt a sudden, sharp pang of something that wasn't exhaustion. It was a realization. I hadn't heard Julie's voice in 6 months. I hadn't seen her face in person since August. Every update came through Aunt Sarah or a grainy, filtered photo in the chat. The isolation wasn't just about infection. It was a wall, and I had been the one paying to build it higher and higher every month. I looked at my phone, a new notification from the chat. "Julie, doctor says my white cell count is dangerously low. Might need to go back to the clinic for a week. It's so hard being away from you all, but I know you're with me." Aunt Sarah: "We love you, warrior. Emma, can you check your emails? Julie sent the new clinic estimate." I didn't open the email. I just stood there in the quiet of the break room, the smell of burnt coffee filling my lungs. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff and my own family was behind me, giving me a gentle, loving push. Maya walked in carrying her lunch. She saw me and stopped. "Emma, you're doing it again, the staring at nothing thing." "I just sent $800 for anti-nausea meds," I said. "I don't have money for lunch." Maya didn't say "I'm sorry." She didn't offer a prayer. She just opened her lunch bag, took out half a turkey sandwich, and handed it to me. "Eat," she said. "And stop looking at your phone. It's not a lifeline, Emma, it's a leash." I took a bite of the sandwich. It was the first real food I'd had in a day. As I chewed, I felt a flicker of something cold and hard taking shape in my chest. I wasn't an angel. I wasn't a saint. I was a victim. And for the first time in 10 months, I started to wonder if I was the only one in the family who was actually suffering. That was the night the exhaustion turned into a very specific, very quiet kind of dread. Something was wrong. Not sick, wrong, wrong, wrong. I finished the sandwich and went back to my desk. I didn't work. I just opened my bank statements and started a list. Every date, every dollar, every emergency that required a wire transfer. $87,350. I wrote the number at the top of the page in big, shaky letters. I knew what was coming. Another request. Another crisis. Another last hope. I just didn't know that the answer wasn't going to come from my bank account. It was going to come from a YouTube video playing on a screen 3 feet away from me. The breakthrough didn't come from a bank statement or a doctor's note. It came from the break room of the logistics firm, 3 feet away from my desk, while I was nursing a headache and a lukewarm cup of tap water. Maya was sitting at the small laminate table, her phone propped up against a napkin dispenser. She was watching a travel vlog. I could hear the upbeat, royalty-free tropical music, steel drums and a heavy bass beat leaking from her speakers. Usually I'd tune it out, but a specific sound caught my ear. It was a laugh. High-pitched, slightly breathless, and ending in a little snort. It was a laugh I had heard at every family Christmas for 20 years. "What are you watching?" I asked. My voice felt tight. Oh, just this influencer couple I follow, Maya said, turning the screen slightly toward me. They're doing a Hidden Gems of Cabo series. It's pure envy bait, honestly. Look at this catamaran. I leaned in. The camera was panning across a white boat cutting through turquoise water. In the background, a group of people were dancing with margaritas in their hands. The camera zoomed in on a blonde woman in a designer bikini and oversized sunglasses. She was throwing her head back, laughing as a man poured champagne into her glass. The headscarf was gone. The pale, foundation-caked skin was gone. The too-weak-to-stand posture had been replaced by a sun-drenched glow. It was Julie. I didn't breathe. I couldn't. I watched as the dying woman who was supposedly in an isolation ward in Mexico to prevent infection danced on a boat in Cabo San Lucas. She looked healthier than I had ever seen her. She looked radiant. She looked like she was having the time of her life on my $87,350. Emma, you okay? You've gone gray, Maya said, her hand reaching for my arm. I didn't answer. I just kept staring at the screen. The vlogger panned to a table of appetizers, lobster tails, fresh fruit, bottles of high-end tequila. The caption on the screen read, "Living our best life with the VIP crew at the Azure Resort." That's her, I whispered. Who? My cousin, the one who's dying. Maya's eyes went wide. She looked at the screen, then back at me. Are you sure maybe it's a look-alike or an old video? She has a birthmark on her right shoulder. Shape of a crescent moon, I said. I pointed to the screen. The woman on the boat turned to wave at the camera, and there it was, dark and clear against her tanned skin. And those sunglasses, I bought them for her 2 years ago for her birthday. I recognized the gold trim. I felt a sudden, violent heave in my chest. I scrambled for the trash can and barely made it. I didn't throw up food, there was nothing in my stomach, but the dry heaves racked my body until my ribs throbbed. The realization didn't come in a wave, it came like a guillotine. Every night I'd spent typing data until my eyes bled. Every meal I'd skipped. The condo I'd given up. The debt I'd saddled myself with for the next decade. It wasn't for a clinical trial. It wasn't for a warrior fighting for her life. It was for a catamaran. It was for the lobster. It was for the VIP suite at a resort I couldn't even afford to look at online. I stood up, wiping my mouth with the back of my hand. My hands weren't shaking anymore. They were cold. When was this posted? I asked Maya. She checked the timestamp. Yesterday, but wait, look at the vlog title. Cabo Day 4, Living Large. If they're on day 4, she's been there all week. Yesterday, Julie had messaged the group chat saying her white cell count was so low she was being moved to a sterile room. She had told me that she was scared of the dark in the hospital. I had spent an hour texting her encouragement while she was likely sipping a mojito. I looked at my phone. There was a fresh notification from the family chat. Aunt Sarah, update from the clinic. Julie had a rough night with the fever, but she's stable. Emma, did you see the invoice I forwarded for the private nurse? They need that settled by tonight to keep the 24-hour monitoring. I looked at the trash can. Then I looked at the coffee cup I was holding. It was a cheap, styrofoam thing, stained with the brown ring of bad office coffee. I gripped it so hard the sides buckled and the remaining liquid splashed over my knuckles. I didn't feel the heat, I just let go. The cup hit the linoleum floor with a dull thud. The coffee spread out in a dark, jagged puddle seeping into the cracks between the tiles. It looked like a bruise. Emma, what are you going to do? Maya asked. Her voice was a whisper, like she was afraid of breaking the silence in the room. I'm going to finish my shift, I said. What? You need to call her. You need to call the police. You need to. I'm going to finish my shift, I repeated. My voice was flat. I need the money. I'm $87,000 in the hole, Maya. I can't afford to lose my job. But I wasn't thinking about the money anymore. I was thinking about the group chat. I was thinking about the 42 people who had spent 10 months praising my sacrifice while they sat on their hands. I was thinking about Aunt Sarah's designer bags and Uncle Bob's boat. I was thinking about the fact that they all wanted a miracle. I was going to give them one. I was going to show them exactly what my money had resurrected. Maya, I said, looking her in the eye. Can you help me? I need to save that video, all of it. I need the timestamps. I need the resort name. I need every frame where her face is clear. Maya nodded, her face hardening into a look of grim determination. I've got a screen recording app. Sit down. We're going to get every second of this. I sat back down at the laminate table. The office hummed around us, the sound of printers, the distant murmur of the warehouse, the click of keyboards. It was a normal Tuesday for everyone else. For me, it was the end of the world. We spent the next 45 minutes in total silence, except for the tropical music looping on Maya's phone. We captured the dancing. We captured the champagne. We captured the moment Julie took off her sunglasses and looked directly into the lens, laughing her snorting laugh, perfectly healthy and vibrant. I felt a strange, detached clarity. The exhaustion that had been dragging me down for months was gone, replaced by a cold, humming energy. I wasn't the angel anymore. I wasn't the stable one. I was the one with the receipts. I looked at the puddle of coffee on the floor. Someone would have to clean that up. In this family, it was always me. Not this time. I have it, Maya said, handing me her phone to airdrop the files. I got the resort website too. Their VIP gold package matches the wristband she's wearing in the shot at the 4:12 mark. It costs $2,200 a night. I looked at the number. $2,200. That was exactly what I had sent last week for her emergency heart blockage surgery. Thank you, Maya, I said. I walked back to my desk. I didn't open the private nurse invoice. I didn't check my bank balance. I just sat there and waited for the clock to tick toward the end of my shift. The spill in the break room stayed where it was. That was the first thing I stopped cleaning up. Maya didn't leave me to spiral. After the shift ended, she didn't go home to her family. She stayed in the parking lot, leaning against her car, waiting for me to walk out. I was moving slowly, my legs feeling like they were made of sand. We need to be smart, Emma, she said, her voice low. If you just scream at her, she'll delete the vlog, call you a liar, and your family will side with her. You know they will. She's the sick one. You're just the one who's stressed. I looked at her. The clarity I'd felt in the break room was still there, but it was cold. I have the video, Maya. How can they ignore a video? Because people believe what they want to believe, she said. We don't just need the video, we need the math. We went to a 24-hour diner. I couldn't afford to order anything, but Maya bought a large platter of fries and pushed them toward the middle of the table. For the next 3 hours, we turned the booth into a war room. Maya was a wizard with digital breadcrumbs. While I sat with my bank statements, she used her phone to dig into the resort's social media. She found the Azure Resort tagged photos on Instagram. She found a group shot posted by the guy in the vlog, Julie's boyfriend, a guy named Tyler who I'd never heard of. Look at the date, Maya said, pointing to a photo of Julie and Tyler at a candlelit dinner. October 14th. I looked at my spreadsheet. On October 14th, I had wired $5,500 for a specialized bone marrow consultation. I had skipped my electricity bill that month to make it happen. Now look at the price of that dinner, Maya said, pulling up the resort's menu. That's the private beach experience. It's $1,200 extra. Your bone marrow consultation paid for their surf and turf. Seeing the numbers line up didn't make me cry. It made the world feel very small and very sharp. Every crisis Julie had suffered over the last 10 months had a corresponding luxury expense in Cabo. The emergency surgery on Monday. That matched the VIP gold catamaran excursion and the 3-night extension in the presidential suite. Maya helped me screen record every single piece of evidence. We didn't just save the vlog, we saved the metadata. We took screenshots of the resort's pricing page. We took screenshots of Tyler's public posts where he thanked his beautiful, generous babe for the trip of a lifetime. You need to stay quiet for a few more hours, Maya warned me as the sun started to come up. Let her keep digging. If she thinks she's safe, she'll keep posting. The more she posts, the more she buries herself. I realized then why Maya was doing this. She wasn't just being a good coworker. She was someone who had dealt with a real illness in her family. She had seen the actual toll, the actual fear. Seeing Julie use that fear as a currency was an insult to everyone who had actually sat in a hospital waiting room. "She's using your life as a credit card, Emma," Maya said, her eyes hard. "You're not just broke, you're being erased." Having Maya there changed everything. If I had been alone, I might have called Julie and begged for an explanation. I might have let her talk me into believing it was a last-wish trip or a misunderstanding. But Maya kept me focused on the concrete. She didn't let me talk about feelings. She only let me talk about dates and dollars. She gave me a clarity that I couldn't find on my own. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't haggard or unstable like my Aunt Linda said. I was a witness to a crime. "Keep your phone on silent," Maya said as we walked to our cars in the morning light. "And don't look at the group chat until you're ready to end it. If you see them praising her now, you'll lose your head." "I'm ready," I said. "Not yet, one more thing." Maya handed me a thumb drive. "I put all the recordings on here, too. Keep it in your purse. If they kick you out of the digital chat, you have the physical proof." I took the drive. It was small and silver, cold in my palm. It felt heavier than it looked. It was $87,350 worth of betrayal compressed into a piece of plastic the size of my thumb. I drove home in the early morning fog. I didn't go to sleep. I sat at my small kitchen table and opened my laptop. I created a folder. I labeled it, "The Truth." Inside, I organized the files. The isolation ward text versus the catamaran dance. The bone marrow wire receipt versus the $1,200 dinner. The surgery invoice versus the presidential suite booking. I sat there for 2 hours just looking at the icons. My phone buzzed on the table. It was a notification from the family chat. I didn't open it. I knew what it was. It was another prayer, another request, another brick in the wall. I felt a strange sense of peace. For 10 months, I had been the one carrying the weight of Julie's life. I had been the one holding my breath, waiting for the news that she was gone. Now I knew she wasn't going anywhere. She was just fine. She was more than fine. She was thriving on the remains of my life. I closed my laptop. I went to the bathroom and looked in the mirror. I looked at the gray skin and the hollow eyes. I looked at the person I had become to satisfy a group of 42 people who didn't even know my middle name. I wasn't an angel, and I wasn't going to be a martyr anymore. I walked to my closet and pulled out a pair of shoes. They were the ones with the flapping soles. I looked at them for a long time. Then I threw them in the trash. I didn't need them. I wasn't going to be running for anyone else anymore. I lay down on my bed and closed my eyes. For the first time in 10 months, I wasn't thinking about how to save Julie. I was thinking about how to save myself. And I knew exactly how it was going to happen. The leverage wasn't just a video. It was the fact that my family had built their entire moral identity around supporting a tragedy. I was about to show them that the tragedy was a comedy and they were the audience. I fell asleep for 3 hours. It was the deepest sleep I'd had in a year. When I woke up, the sun was high. I reached for my phone. There were 12 missed calls from my Aunt Sarah and 5 from my mother. It was time. I didn't go back to work that afternoon. I called in sick, the first time I'd ever done it without a Julie-related reason. I sat on my floor with my laptop, a stack of printed bank statements, and a legal pad. The leverage wasn't just the video. It was the timeline. I spent 6 hours building a digital evidence folder. I didn't want there to be any room for interpretation. I didn't want the "maybe it's an old video" excuse. I needed to prove that my money, The money I was told was going toward hospital beds and chemotherapy was physically paying for the resort in real time. I started with the surgery wire. On Monday at 9:14 a.m., I had sent $12,000 to the J. Miller Medical account. On Monday at 11:45 a.m., the Cabo Vloggers video showed Julie and her boyfriend Tyler checking into the Azure Presidential Suite. I pulled up the resort's live booking site. The deposit for that suite, exactly $12,000. I took a screenshot of the wire confirmation and placed it side by side with the resort's booking deposit policy. It was a perfect match. Then I moved to the isolation ward lie. I took the text Julie sent me on Tuesday. "I'm in a sterile room, Emma. I'm scared of the dark." I matched it against the timestamp of the vlog where she was on the catamaran, 3 sheets to the wind, laughing under a bright Mexican sun. The metadata on the video file confirmed it was recorded at 2:30 p.m. on Tuesday. I felt like a mechanic taking apart an engine that I finally realized was hollow. Every crisis had a price tag, and every price tag had a corresponding luxury. I organized it all into 10 distinct files. File 1, the timeline. Files 2-6, the specific crisis versus cost comparisons. File 7, the medical bills Julie had sent me, which I now realized were just poorly photoshopped invoices from a graphic design template. File 8, the screen recording of her dancing on the boat. File 9, the VIP gold wristband confirmation. File 10, the final bank total, $87,350. I saved the whole thing as a single PDF and then broke it back down into 10 high-resolution images. I knew how the family chat worked. People don't read long PDFs, they look at pictures, they scroll through receipts. I loaded the files into a draft message in the group chat. My heart was thumping against my ribs like a trapped bird. I looked at the 42 names at the top of the chat. Aunt Sarah, Uncle Bob, Aunt Linda, my mother. They were all in their right now, probably talking about what a warrior Julie was. My phone buzzed. A new message in the chat. "Julie, doctor says my fever is spiking again. I might need another round of the private nurse tonight. It's so expensive, but I want to make it home to see you all. Emma, are you there?" I watched the typing bubbles appear. Aunt Sarah, "Oh honey, we're all here. Emma will take care of it, won't you, Emma? You're her guardian angel." The word angel felt like a slap. I didn't reply, I just stared at the send button. The leverage was ready. It was undeniable. It was backed up on 3 different drives. It was documented, time-stamped, and cross-referenced. For 10 months, Julie had used a fake illness to control the family. I was about to use the truth to take that control back. I looked at the bank statement one last time. $87,350. That was the price of my silence. The price of the truth was going to be much, much higher for her. I felt a cold, hard resolve settle over me. The shaking stopped. My vision was clear. I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the evidence. I didn't hit send yet. I wanted them to be active. I wanted everyone to be watching when the wall came down. I put my phone on the table and walked to the kitchen. I poured myself a glass of water. My hands were perfectly steady. She thought I was her lifeline. She didn't realize I was the one holding the anchor. I sat in my car in the parking lot of my apartment complex for 2 hours, watching the sunset turn the sky the color of a bruised peach. My phone was a hot weight in my lap. The family group chat was alive, a constant stream of blue bubbles and heart emojis. It was the digital version of a sickroom vigil, and I was the only one who knew the patient was currently 3,000 miles away, probably deciding which poolside cocktail to order next. Logistically, everything was in place. I had the 10 files ready to drop. I had verified the timestamps one last time. I'd even gone as far as to cross-reference the weather in Cabo on Tuesday with the video footage. The sun in the vlog matched the 85-degree forecast for the Baja Peninsula. while it had been pouring rain at the clinic in Mexico, where Julie was supposedly confined to a sterile bed. But there was a risk move I hadn't made yet. I needed to be sure she couldn't claim the account was hacked or that the video was an old trip she'd taken before she got sick. I opened a private message to Julie. My heart felt like it was trying to kick its way out of my chest. "Hey Julie," I typed. "The clinic just called. They said there's a problem with the billing for the private nurse tonight. They need a photo of your ID next to today's newspaper or a digital clock to verify the patient is on site before they can release the medication. I know you're tired, but can you just snap a quick selfie in the hospital bed with the time visible? I'll wire the next $2,200 as soon as I see it." I waited. My breath was shallow. This was the bait. If she was smart, she'd make an excuse. If she was arrogant, she'd double down. 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed. "Julie, oh Emma, I'm so out of it. The nurse is right here. She says she can't allow photos in the sterile zone because of the equipment. But I'm looking at the clock right now. It's 6:15 p.m. I'm so nauseous. Please just send the money. I don't think I can make it through the night without the meds." 6:15 p.m. I checked the Cabo vlogger's Instagram story. He had just posted a live clip 5 minutes ago. In the background, leaning against a marble bar in a gold sequin dress, was Julie. She was holding a phone in one hand and a martini in the other. She was laughing. She looked like the picture of health. She had just lied to my face in real time while standing in a bar while I was sitting in a car I couldn't afford to put gas in. The emotional move happened then. The last shred of maybe died. For months, I had been mourning her. I had been grieving a woman who was still very much alive and using my grief as a travel budget. I didn't feel sad anymore. I didn't even feel angry. I felt a cold, surgical detachment. I went back to the 42-person family chat. The conversation was peak performative sympathy. "Aunt Sarah, Julie just messaged me. She's so weak, everyone. Emma, did you get that nurse payment sorted? We're all so worried. Uncle Bob, Emma is our rock. We'd be lost without her strength. My mother, she's always been the one to carry the load. We are so proud of you, Emma." I looked at my mother's message. Proud. She was proud of me for being a hollowed-out shell. She was proud of me for being a resource. I scrolled to the bottom of the chat. I touched the attachment icon. I selected the 10 files. My finger hovered over the blue arrow. This was the threshold. Once I hit this, there was no going back to the Sunday dinners. There was no going back to being the stable one. I would be the person who blew up the family's favorite story. I would be the one who turned their warrior into a thief and their angel into a fool. I thought about my empty savings account. I thought about the $87,350 that I would likely never see again. I thought about the holes in my shoes and the way my boss looked at me when I couldn't remember my own name. I didn't want their prayers. I didn't want their pride. I wanted them to see. I took a deep breath, the air in the car smelling of old upholstery and exhaustion. I looked at the 6:15 p.m. text from Julie one last time. Then I hit send. The first file landed. Then the second. Then the third. The little gray check marks turned blue, one by one, as 42 people simultaneously received the truth. I put the phone face down on the passenger seat. I didn't want to see the immediate fallout. I didn't want to hear the pings. I just wanted to sit in the silence for one more minute before the world caught fire. The countdown was over. The impact was starting. The silence that followed was absolute. For 3 long minutes, the 42-person family chat didn't move. No typing bubbles, no reactions, no hearts. Just those 10 files sitting there like unexploded landmines. I sat in my car, the phone glowing in the dark, watching the scene by list grow. My mother, Aunt Sarah, Uncle Bob, Aunt Linda, my brother. My cousins. One by one, they were all opening the files. They were seeing the wire transfer of $12,000, the one I sent while crying in my kitchen, side by side with Julie's gold sequin dress and a martini. They were seeing the isolation ward text from 6, 15 p.m. sitting right next to a video of her dancing on a bar at 6:20 p.m. My Uncle Bob was the first to break. "What is this?" he typed. "Emma, did you post the wrong thing? Is this an old video from years ago?" I didn't let him breathe. I didn't let him build a bridge for her to walk across. I typed one sentence. "The video was recorded 3 hours ago in Cabo San Lucas. The timestamp on the digital file matches the sunset over the Azure resort." Then the floodgates opened. "Aunt Linda, Cabo, she's in Mexico at the clinic. She told us she was too weak to lift a spoon." "Aunt Sarah, Julie, answer your phone. What is Emma talking about? Why are you in a dress?" The chat started moving so fast I could barely keep up. The blue bubbles were flying. The confusion was turning into that sharp, high-pitched panic people get when they realize the ground they're standing on is actually a trapdoor. Then Julie appeared. The typing bubbles for her name stayed up for a long time. I could imagine her standing at that marble bar, her heart dropping into her stomach as her phone started vibrating with 40 different notifications. "Julie, Emma, please delete this. You're making a huge mistake. This isn't what it looks like. I was given a 1-day pass by the doctors. A Make-A-Wish type thing because the treatments are so hard. I didn't want to tell anyone because I didn't want you to worry." I felt a cold laugh bubble up in my chest. Make-A-Wish. I didn't even have to type the rebuttal. My cousin Mark, who is a surgical resident, chimed in. "Mark, a 1-day pass from a sterile isolation ward for an aggressive cellular anomaly to go to a luxury resort bar. Julie, I'm a doctor. That's not how medicine works. That's how fraud works." Julie, "Mark, you don't know the clinic's protocols. Emma, call me now, please." My phone started ringing. Julie Miller, I declined it. It rang again. I declined it again. I went back to the chat. I dropped the 11th file, the screenshot of the private message she'd sent me just an hour ago, lying about the hospital clock and the nurse being right there. I typed, "You told me 60 minutes ago that you were in a hospital bed and needed $2,200 for meds. You told me you were nauseous. You are currently at the Azure Resort Bar. The suite you are staying in cost exactly what I wired you for your emergency surgery on Monday." The chat went dead again. This was the point of no return. This wasn't just a misunderstanding about a vacation. This was proof of a calculated 10-month financial execution. My mother finally spoke. "Mother, Emma, how much have you sent her in total?" I didn't summarize, I didn't round up. $87,350, I typed. "My savings, my 401k, my credit cards, all of it." The reaction was a physical thing I could almost feel through the screen. "Aunt Sarah, $87,000. Uncle Bob, I bought her flowers. I bought Sarah a bag because I thought we were all under so much stress. We've been praying every Sunday for a lie." That was the shift. The performative sympathy didn't turn into empathy for me. It turned into outrage for themselves. They weren't mad that I was broke. They were mad that they had been made to look like fools. They were mad that their prayers had been wasted. Aunt Linda, she had us all crying. She had us feeling guilty for being healthy. "Julie, how could you do this to your own blood?" To Emma, "Julie, I was going to pay it back. I just needed a break. The stress of everyone expecting me to be perfect was too much." Then the notification appeared. "Julie Miller has left the group." The cowardice of it was the final nail. She didn't stay to fight. She didn't try to explain the $87. She just vanished into the digital night, leaving the 41 of us staring at the wreckage of our family dynamic. My phone buzzed with a private message. It was from Julie. "Julie, you bitch, you destroyed my life. I have nowhere to go now. Everyone hates me. I hope you're happy with yourself. I'll tell everyone you forced me into this." I didn't get angry. I didn't even feel the urge to defend myself. I just screenshotted the threat and dropped it right back into the main family chat. "She's not in the ward," I typed to the group. "And she's not sorry." My Aunt Sarah, the one who had spent months calling me an angel while she bought herself designer bags, finally typed something that landed like a lead weight. Sarah, well, we have to get the money back. Emma, surely the bank can reverse the wires, I typed back. No, Aunt Sarah, the wires are gone, the money is spent. It's in the cocktails, the catamaran, and the resort suite. It's gone. The silence that followed that was different. It was the silence of people realizing that the hero was no longer going to be the one picking up the check. If the money was gone and Julie was gone, there was only one thing left: the bill. Uncle Bob, well, I can't help, I just put a deposit on the new slip for the boat. Aunt Linda, and we have the kitchen remodel starting Monday. They were already recalculating. They were already moving on from the tragedy to the inconvenience. I looked at the chat. I looked at the names of the people who had watched me waste away for 10 months and only cared when they realized their prayers had been scammed. I stood up from my car seat. I felt light. I felt like I had just shed a skin that was 10 sizes too small. I typed one last message to the 42-person chat. I'm done being the stable one. I'm done being the angel. Don't call me for the next Sunday dinner. I have a lot of hours to work to pay off the debt you all watched me take on. I didn't wait for a reply. I didn't want to see my mother's excuses or my aunt's hollow apologies. I left the group. I sat in the dark of my car and listened to the quiet. No pings, no buzzes, no warrior updates, just the sound of the wind against the windshield. For the first time in 10 months, my phone was silent. I drove to the 24-hour diner where Maya was waiting. She was sitting in the same booth, a fresh plate of fries on the table. She looked up when I walked in. She didn't ask what happened. She just saw my face and pushed the ketchup toward me. Is it done? She asked. It's done, I said. How do you feel? I thought about the $87,350. I thought about the condo I didn't have. I thought about the holes in my shoes and the bridge I'd just burned behind me. I feel hungry, I said. And for the first time in a year, I ate. I didn't just nibble. I ate until I was full. The liar had lost her audience. The angel had lost her wings. And I, for the first time in my life, had found my voice. The fallout didn't happen in a single explosion. It was a slow, steady crumbling. Julie stayed in Cabo for 3 more days, apparently. The suite was already paid for with my surgery money, and she figured she might as well finish the vacation. When she finally flew back, she didn't go to her apartment. She knew the family was waiting there. She tried to check into a local motel, but her credit cards, the ones she'd been fueling with my transfers, were maxed out within 48 hours. The family didn't sue her. That would have required admitting to the world that they were gullible, and in my family, reputation is worth more than $80,000. Instead, they did something worse. They erased her. They stopped saying her name. They scrubbed her from the photo albums. They turned their warrior into a ghost, not out of moral outrage, but out of embarrassment. I didn't get my money back. I knew I wouldn't. I spent the next year working 60-hour weeks, slowly chipping away at the credit card debt. My credit score is still a disaster, and the condo on 4th Street is long gone, owned by a couple who probably doesn't know that its walls were almost bought with the price of a fake cancer. 6 months after the chat blew up, I was walking through the local mall when I saw her, Julie. She wasn't in a gold dress. She was wearing a cheap polyester vest and a name tag. She was working at a kiosk that sold cell phone cases. She looked tired. Her hair, which had been so vibrant in the vlog, was dull and pulled back in a messy knot. She saw me, and for a second we just stood there, the mall music tinkling between us. She didn't apologize. She didn't offer me $1. She just looked at me with a hard, bitter expression and said, I hope you're happy. I'm a pariah because of you. No, Julie, I said, my voice quiet and steady. You're a pariah because of you. I just stopped paying for the disguise. I walked away. I didn't feel a rush of triumph. I just felt finished. Today, I live in a smaller apartment than I wanted. It's on the 3rd floor of a walk-up, and the heater rattles when it's cold. but every piece of furniture in here is mine. Every bill is paid with money that isn't being diverted to someone else's crisis. Last Tuesday, I sat at my small table and had a proper, hot lunch: roasted chicken, fresh greens, and a glass of actual wine. I didn't check my phone once. I didn't look for a fever update or a clinic invoice. I just sat in the sunlight and listened to the silence. It was the most expensive meal I've ever had, because it cost me $87,350 to finally be able to eat it in peace. You can't save people who are using your lifeboat as a luxury cruise. You can only decide when it's time to stop rowing and start swimming for yourself. What would you have done the moment you saw that video in the break room? Would you have waited to gather the receipts, or would you have hit send right then? Have you ever had a family member turn your life into their personal ATM? Tell me your story in the comments. I'm reading them all tonight. If you want to see more stories about people finally setting financial boundaries and finding their peace, check out the video on the screen about the family grifter who got caught through a DNA test. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more lived-in truths. Take care of yourself. Nobody else is going to do it for you.